All right, so I kind of want to react to a few things. So someone told me Preach made a Race to World First video, in which apparently he implies Race to World First recap. Blizzard should be embarrassed about this raid. All right, let's hear this.
Too much about the race because I need to do a video on it. Let's just say it was better that I didn't go on the cast the day of the kill until much later. I had to be kind of talked down a little bit. There was a lot of words being thrown around by me in the morning when talking to Roger and Scripe and things like that. Words like incompetence, embarrassing, complete calamity.
What is it? What a crybaby. All right, so let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's not just assume it's like purely like an Echo thing. Like, for example, I think if the situation had been reversed and Echo had killed Gallywix and it was also like really easy, I think Preach would be like 70% as mad as he is here. Which is to say that I think this is mostly like not because of the EU losing thing. Like he's like a race. He is a race enjoyer, right? Like he loves races that are super close. He likes it being like this, like a lot of viewers. Like, I mean, I've talked to him about this before IRL, where he really wants it to be like, he wants to see Liko and Equid just going at it. I'm sure he prefers Echo to win, especially because he's there. Like, if you're casting at a certain venue, you're just going to be pulling for that team. You're obviously biased to that team. That's true of our casters too, just for us. Did I say Liko and Equid? Oh, W. I didn't even realize that. Fuck yeah, Liko. Yeah, so I don't know. I think he feels like he missed. I mean, but in a way though, like, wouldn't he also be mad about last race? Because last race we also never had a like Liquid versus Echo like pulling the boss low at the same time thing. That never happened last raid either. So was Blizzard incompetent for that? I guess it's like, but the last boss was hard. I think he's only mad about the tuning. I mean, yeah, the tuning was bad. Like, last boss being easier than the second to last boss is bad. And the fourth boss being harder than like the sixth boss, even though the reset made that kind of weird, is bad. Let's hear the let's see.
Yeah, a lot of words like that were being thrown around. I was furious, I'm not gonna lie. I'm literally furious with what they did during that raid. I don't think we'll ever get an answer as to what the hell happened there.
I think we will. I think we will get an answer. Like, the last time they like super goofed, they like super goofed was Razagath. Because like the boss was just like, even forgetting the like nerfing and killing when we were asleep thing, that boss was just like unprogressively overtuned like 5 different times, and they had to nerf the fuck out of it every time. Like, they like fucked up that boss, right? And they did answer, like, in interviews publicly. They were like, here's why we missed on this boss. They're going to be asked about it, and I don't think they're going to be able to be like not answer it. I'm pretty sure they will answer it. I don't think I mean, they'll have an interview probably with me before the next year, and that will be asked, you know?
There is a million crackpot theories running around about what happened, but ultimately, embarrassing is the word I will go with. Absolutely embarrassing for Blizzard. I have never in my life, and I really racked my brain. Did they forget a phase? I don't know. I don't know. Like, if I run the fucking gauntlet of crackpot theories. 1, they didn't turn on the triggers for whatever was supposed to happen.
No.
2, they deliberately didn't turn on the triggers for what was supposed to happen so the race would end. 3, they...
Oh, okay. Now, yeah, that's not true. Like I'm assuming he means the mythic triggers. Like, they literally had it tuned for heroic and they didn't turn the mythic ones on because they wanted it to end. That's
legendary.
Like, we didn't see all these abilities get nerfed as we were walking up to the boss. Basically, the boss is as it was from the beginning of the raid, as far as we can tell, except for they nerfed its HP at the same time they nerfed Mugsy's.
Ring does, and literally didn't come up with anything at all. 4, they somehow ran out of time to create whatever the mythic phase is going to be.
No, I mean, they did. Okay, so one thing I disagree with that is I don't think the fight was lacking with the mythic phase. Like the whole mythic phase thing being basically everything after P1, I don't think that was like insufficient. Like, it was too easy, but the mystery of it and how you actually problem solved it was actually really cool. It was just tuning. Like, the previous mythic secret phases they like spawned at the end of the fight, and they were also very easy phases. They were just less of the fight. But I think the way they executed the secret phase was way cooler, in my opinion. I don't think they like forgot to add part of the secret phase. I do think it could have been cooked up way better. Like, so we thought this fight was going to be two different things with a mythic phase. We thought going to a raid plan. My two ideas, because here's what we had data mined. We had it data mined that there was basically like an increased version of all of his spells. So the tank mechanic had the biggest, baddest bomb blast. That was one of the data mined mythic phase spells. And then another one was like the fused canisters was, there was another like data mined mythic spell with that being increased. And there was one where the suppression was increased. And the way that we thought this was going to work on mythic was you started in the intermission, but then basically all four things would be open. And we thought it was basically going to be Lei Shen or a Build-A-Boss. Because, and I saw Echo, Scripe and Roger talked about this in their post-race interview as well. But this was my main theory for how the boss worked, is like basically you can choose which coil you want to get rid of first, and then let's say that's this one, right? Well, this one is the suppression one. So after you get rid of this one, now suppression, instead of being this big, right, is like this big for the rest of the fight. You'd be able to figure that out if you had to play in one side of the thing. It'd be so big that you probably couldn't have him in the middle to get safe. You'd probably have to tank him on an edge and have the safe spot be like on the far side, which would have created some interesting ideas. If you brought the boss, if you blew up this one first, it made the tank mechanic turn into those spread circles, or maybe the spread circles become way bigger, right? If you pull it to this one first, it makes the, like the fused canisters a lot harder or whatever. There was data mine spells to support a lot of this. And then basically progression is trying to figure out which combination of all of these things makes the fight at the end where you only have one quadrant actually playable or the easiest. And those fights are extremely fun to progress. They can be very, very hard, but that's how I thought they were going to do it. I think that would have been a cooler version. I'm biased. I also love Lei Shen. I think it's my favorite boss of all time. The way they did it though, where like the intermission and the last phase worked was fine. It just wasn't punishing enough. Like they had the two group soaks, right? They had the like left and right side big soaks going on, right? They could have made this happen twice as much. You could have had 4 groups of 5 instead of 2. They could have had them all go off in 10 seconds, where you needed to have like a group of 5 to the left, a group of 5 in front, a group of 5 behind, and like you have to be pre-positioned with that with blazes and stuff, and like that would have been possible and super challenging. Like there's a lot of ways to make that thing harder. The suppression could have been way bigger. The healing just could have been more dangerous the whole time, right? But the idea that like they scrapped the mythic phase thing, like I think the fight is working the way they intended it. And I also think the fight being the way it was, but having it be as normally punishing as a mythic fight, just makes that make a lot of sense. They also could have left, to be honest with you, they probably could have left P2 the same. So I refer to P2 as when you have this much room remaining right here. When you're fighting the boss here and like half the raid is on this side, half the raid is on this side. Okay. This could have been mostly the same. I think the biggest error they made was when you do this, when you go to just the last quadrant being playable, the fact that it's just a rinse and repeat of P2, just with less space, I think was bad. They could have sped up the mechanics. They could have had combos happen that didn't happen before that would have been genuinely hard to deal with. They could have made the suppression bigger to where you actually have to tank it on the edge, but they actually just did the exact same cast sequence as P2 with less space. And that's just not hard enough, right? Like the end of the fight wasn't harder than, like, does it make sense that doing the entire fight here isn't harder than doing the entire fight with this whole space available? That doesn't make any sense. You have twice the space to deal with things. Space is a premium on a fight like this, and they removed half of it and it didn't matter. That means that the space denial element of this fight just wasn't important enough. That was like probably the biggest mistake they made. So I don't know if I definitely agree with that part of it.
All of those theories may or may not be true. I have no idea. I have actually no idea, but embarrassing. I overhyped myself for no reason. I overhyped myself for good reason. For really good reason. They did not deliver. They did not deliver. I had very good reasons to overhype. Theory, all of the above. Potentially, like, there's a lot of things we know about boss design that go on in the background, such as not turning on secret triggers before the top world guilds get there. Makes sense, right? And we actually saw a great example of why this raid's here, because it was very public that somebody went in and used dev tools to kill the boss. That's a really good reason why they don't do that. We also have it with the jailer and things like
Ooh.
that. When there's a secret phase, is they keep it locked until one of the...
Ooh, here's a new crackpot theory, as he said. What if, like, the reason that this dev didn't have more time to cook Mythic Gallywix is they were spending so much time trying to have those people stop, like, getting into the boss and killing it? Like, you guys know they had the door from Muggsy to Galley not open for, like, a few hours one day, assuming because they were trying to, like, fix something with that? It's crackpot as fuck. It's I don't even know what that means. He just keeps saying it.
The top guilds get there and they activate it. And then, because it's actually going to happen now. We saw this with N'Zoth. For any little WoW historians out there,
What happened?
They actively despawned N'Zoth because they hadn't turned the triggers on. People remember Liquid.
No, that's I don't know what he's talking about with triggers. The reason they despawned that boss was because we were killing it in an unintended way that they thought was possible. Bro, he keeps saying triggers. I actually don't know what he's talking. I don't know what that means.
We don't do that. We also have it with the jailer and things like that. When there's a secret phase, is they keep it locked until one of the top guilds get there and they activate it.
That's not how Mythic Jailer worked. They didn't activate any triggers when we got to the
Because
boss.
it's actually going to happen now. We saw this with N'Zoth.
He's saying part of the fight wasn't enabled. That's not true. That's not true on N'Zoth or any other secret phase.
For any little WoW historians out there, they actively despawned N'Zoth because they hadn't turned the triggers on.
I mean, I can see that being a misunderstanding of how that worked, but that's not what happened on N'Zoth. There wasn't, like, the Mythic phase. We had actually been in the Mythic phase already before we did the, like, stay out of the Mythic phase and then, like, burn the boss down. That's not how that worked.
People remember Liquid progressed N'Zoth and then suddenly the boss disappeared. Why? They had reached the secret phase and it wasn't active, so they...
That's not true. We had been in the secret phase for like 30 pulls before that test. We had gone through and successfully completed the Mythic phase and come back out of it multiple times. What we did on one pull was someone said, hey, what happens if we don't go down in the secret phase and we just stay up and hit the boss for a while? And we were all like, I don't know, let's just test it. And then it just never did anything, and we had the boss like 20%. So they despawned the boss because they realized that if you never went down to the secret phase, the rest of the fight didn't start. That's not a Mythic trigger thing. That's just like a weird loophole thing they didn't think about. They despawn the boss and then fix it. That had nothing to do. I still don't know what he means by triggers. I don't know what that means.
Despawned the boss and then respawned the boss with...
I know what triggers can mean on a fight, but it has nothing to do with the context in which he's using it in. So I'm assuming he's referring to something else.
Phase now fully active, right? So that's how they do stuff.
Preach out here lying. I don't think he's lying. I just think he doesn't understand how it works. I don't think he's like... He thinks he knows how it works and he's saying that, but he's not like spreading disinformation on purpose.
Really not. Although it was more public this time, nearly every tier, somebody goes in and uses the dev tools to kill the boss. So they do that. We'll get to the next game in a minute. I'm keeping it a little secret.
I think that might be true. I mean, wait, he said most tiers people go in dev tools and turn on the boss. I don't think the last boss has ever been killed on Mythic ever, like it has in this tier multiple times. I don't think that's ever happened, at least since I've been doing the race. So since Old Year, that would be like, we would know about that. That would be like a big meme. At least that hasn't happened since Old Year. People have gone in and done like weird soloing stuff with Torghast powers and Mythic Plus, but killing the Mythic end boss before anyone's gotten to it, or just in general before World First, has not happened, at least since I've been doing the race.
For you right now. But I did want to address a couple of things. Now, I want to be very clear on this. This is my opinion. It is definitely not shared.
Someone said he's just doing this to farm drama for view counts. No, I don't. Okay, can we all just try to take this at face value? I know a lot of people basically have like disliked Preach since the like I'm quitting WoW thing video. Like that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, a lot of WoW players. But like I feel like we should just like the chat should just cool off a little bit. We haven't I feel like he's making this video because he's really passionate about the race and he's really upset about the way it ended. I don't think he's doing this in a disingenuous way.
Fight everybody on the Echo team, and I haven't spoke to anyone at Liquid yet. I kind of want to see if we can get a chat with Dratnos going, something like that.
Dratnos is not in Liquid.
My personal feelings are...
But W Dratnos, though.
This is possibly one of the worst designed raids of all time. That's my starting point there.
So purely design? I don't know if that's true. So tuned. Oh yeah, I actually think the design of this tier is pretty goated. So I'm assuming he's not talking about theme. He's talking purely about boss design, because I think the theme is kind of objectively goated. But I think the design is pretty good. So first boss is the first boss. I think the design of the second boss is great. They normally do like some kind of 2-boss raid changing sides thing. I honestly think Cauldron of Carnage is like the coolest version of that. I think that's sick. Nice fight. The Rick Reverb, I feel like is a perfectly fine like early raid, not one-shot boss. Not super difficult. Obviously the theme is cool, but like literally the design of the fight is fine. Styx? So Styx is hard to gauge because I haven't done it since we did it like the first time. I guess we did a re-clear of it. I think it was certainly way too hard, but that's a tuning thing, not a design thing. But the design of Styx being rotating around the room, trying to burn minimal trash, and the trash ball thing, I think the trash ball thing was designed really well. I think that's actually like pretty cool. Where you turn into a ball, you have to run over the scrap master, get medium run over the scrap master, and then 2 of you have to find a big bomb. I think that's fine. Like it seemed fun on heroic. But let's just say Styx is like really poorly designed. I don't know if I'd agree with that. But let's just say that's true. Okay, so Styx is bad. Are we arguing Sprocket is bad? I feel like Sprocket's a really well-designed fight. 3 phases. They're all the same except a weapon gets better in every phase. I think the intermission maybe isn't awesome, but I feel like Mythic Sprocket was just like a pretty good Mythic fight. Pure single, not super long. One-Arm Bandit, again, we're not talking about tuning. We're talking about design. I feel like One-Arm Bandit is one of the cooler like single target-esque sludge fisty type bosses they've made in a while. The different combos, the different routes you could have gone, how you position in the room. I feel like One-Arm Bandit is just sick, especially on Mythic. Really cool. I think Muggsy design, again, not tuning. I would actually argue that Muggsy was actually tuned pretty well. I think the design of the jails isn't good, because like requiring port classes is basically how that turned out. I'm not sure if that was their intention, but it's certainly how it ended up. I think the way that mines worked was pretty good design. I think the idea that you're switching 2 sides of the room and there's multiple ways to do it. We considered 3 healing, 4 healing, and 5 healing. 3 healing with Lust on the pole to skip an entire phase. Could have made the last phase DPS check super relevant, but also maybe easier to heal because the 1 less stack and less Moxie. There's like a lot of really cool things you could have done. I thought the design of Muggsy was actually pretty good. Obviously it was really bugged but the tuning was good, I think. So I wouldn't say Muggsy was like really poorly designed. Really the worst part of Muggsy is just everything involving the jails, which is very fair. And then I don't think the design of Gallywix is bad. I actually think the design... Now, obviously, I'm going to feel more like this than everyone else because what I do is figure out raid bosses, and figuring out an end boss without a dungeon journal was extremely fucking fun, and it was not mechanically challenging enough. But again, we're not talking about tuning. We're talking purely design. I think almost everyone that does Gallywix on Mythic is going to have fun doing the boss. It's not an unfun movement fight, weird LOS, like annoying ads. Like the ads all spawn under the boss, which is sweet unless you're a DK and want to grip something. The movement doesn't feel annoying. It's just like a fun boss to do. It's not tuned to be an end boss, which is a tuning thing, not a design thing. But I also could argue that there's like multiple versions of how the secret phase would have worked on that boss that are better than what they did. So let's call that not amazing. Let's call that like could have been better, but I don't think it was bad. I think almost all of the issues with Gallywix are tuning related, especially like P1 of Gallywix. Yo, P1 of Gallywix is a fucking banger, by the way. Like before like the secret phase intermission, like that shit's sick. How they did that phase was very, very good. Maybe a reason why is it's the phase they took from heroic. It's basically last phase of heroic, just like changed up a little bit with the ads. But in Mythic, they didn't take anything from heroic except for that phase, and everything they made specifically for Mythic was like a little lacking. Here we go.
I have seen a lot.
What is someone in chat says you are also biased towards this raid since you won it. Yeah, and I admit that too. Like I have never not admitted that, and he is biased against it because he lost. See, the thing is, I think he roots for Echo, but I don't think it's like he's not as biased as like the players are as far as losing. Like he didn't do anything. He just sat on a couch and talked about it, right? He's not on the team. But I agree the raid looked good and got turned into a joke. Yeah, but I think a lot of that's tuning, not design.
But
maybe that's also semantics.
I personally think, again, my opinion is complete copium to the ends of Earth. First of all, it's good they designed an end boss that seems killable. Go and fuck yourself, because that's not true at all, because you are giga-fucked at the beginning of the raid. Every single Mythic raid...
I think what he's talking about is people are saying it's a good... Like, it's like, I've seen a few tweets like this. They're like, all right, hot take, but I think the best guilds in the world killing a boss in 50 to 100 pulls is fine because that means it's tuned for everyone else. And I think what he's about to say is like they don't need to do that for an end boss because it is made accessible for you by the time it gets there. And also, how are you saying that? Because like there's a boss like Stick super early in the raid, so you're kind of contradicting yourself. I'm pretty sure that's what he's gonna say. Let me back it up.
I have seen a lot of feedback from people, which I personally think, again, my opinion, is complete copium to the ends of Earth. First of all, it's good they designed an end boss that seems killable. Go and fuck yourself.
Okay, that's an extreme response to that person, but
because that's not true at all, because you are giga fucked at the beginning of the raid. Every single mythic raid player is fucked by this scenario. Everybody. Having the end boss be easy and the middle of the raid be ridiculously hard.
So I think probably people making that argument are, man, these pauses for him are not, I'm not doing him right by this, but it's just when I pressed pause, I didn't mean it. But so I think what he means is like, okay, if you're saying it's nice that the end boss is easy, that's purely people with fatigue from Fyrak and Nerebar Palace. They're not like talking about Styx. Like you could be like, yeah, well, Styx is hard. And they're like, well, yeah, I don't like that either, but I do like that the end boss is easy. Like saying I like that the end boss is easy isn't disproven by saying, well, an earlier boss is harder than it should have been. That could still be something that people are looking forward to. Like specifically Mythic Plus players. I know a really vocal group of people in Mythic Plus are Mythic Plusers just in general, and specifically Mythic Plusers that feel like they have to raid to get gear. Pretty much all of their takes are like raid should be as easy as possible because I actually don't like doing this, but I feel like I have to. So please, they're not like raiders who are arguing raid things. They're just like, they're like anything about raid being anywhat of a challenge whatsoever. I want it to be gone just so I can have all the gear that I can get. And those people are very loud. Not saying those are the only like make raid easier takes, but those are a very like, you can pick that out from a crowd of them. They want 4 bosses to be puggable. Yeah, I think 4 bosses being puggable is a good thing. Basically, my take is the first 4 bosses being puggable is ideal, but I think there should be more than 8 bosses in a raid because having that be true and not having some massive difficulty jump because you know you need to go from intro mythic boss to end mythic boss, the difficulty curve between those things is going to feel like shit at some point while also having the first 4 bosses puggable. So make 2 more bosses. That's my take. Let me let him continue.
Benefits no one at all in any way, shape, or form. It literally fucks every single person who goes into a mythic raid. Does it
I think he means having bosses be too hard too early, which everyone would agree with.
Sense to have earlier hard bosses? No, not really, because that's for everybody else. I am totally fine with the end bosses being super hard. Your Tindrils, your Fyraks, your even, your other big end game bosses. That's fine because there's no way in hell earlier non-splitter maniac guilds are going to get there anyway, and they can be changed, and we get a good race, and that works. Last 2 raids have had some...
What is it? He said, someone in chat said, I don't think it was intended for early bosses to be harder, though. That is correct. Styx was obviously not supposed to be as hard as it was. Like, that was... Then you could tell by the changes they made to it week 2. They are... that was purely... Like, it wasn't like Blizzard intentionally did this, but I also don't think Blizzard intentionally made the last boss super easy, either. I think that was... I mean, which his whole point is like they were incompetent in tuning the bosses. And I feel like that's not a hot take. That seems accurate. It's kind of like sounds like you're being really mean by calling someone incompetent at a job that you have no idea how to do yourself. I always feel weird about doing that. Like I would have no idea how to create and tune raid bosses, right? But I mean, saying that like Blizzard was incompetent with tuning bosses this year is kind of like, that's kind of what happened.
Really weird tuning for some fucking reason. Amirdrasil was kind of perfect. They got it close with that, and Sepulchre, besides Halondrus, which was an anomaly, was also pretty perfect. It was close to it, but whatever. Amirdrasil should be the model for everything. Not true. Benefit boosted people that want the mount.
I mean, Amirdrasil was also a widely complained about raid because people felt like they were at Tindril, which was completely unfair for way too long because earlier bosses being easy. But who won those races? Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a decent criticism.
There was a discussion. I
don't know. I feel like if we would have won Amirdrasil, just giving Preach some credit here, I think if we win Amirdrasil, I think this video, it has the exact same, he would have said the same thing. Like he would have said Amirdrasil was good. I think what Preach really wants is he wants the race to be really close at the end. I think. He definitely also wants Echo to win, but I think he cares more about that.
Not joking. To boost the world second. I am not joking. There was a potential complete Giga Chad move that they were going to sell the world second kill to somebody. This came up because Perfecto was starting to get a very sore eye, and Perfecto was scheduled to go to the doctor later in the day, and they didn't have another rogue to step in. They were going to let somebody buy the rogue spot because they could have sold it for like 200 million gold and boosted it, because why the fuck not? There was we were hoping Method were going to do it. We were genuinely hoping Method were going to boost the
It would have been hard for Method to do that without Vantis on it. But you could have done that. You could have also done that on Sarkareth, though, for what it's worth. You could have absolutely 19-man Sarkareth for World Second after we won.
That would have been the most Giga Chad move of all time, but they just it was so easy they killed it before Perfecto went to the doctors. So, but that was the discussion that was happening. It's like, we could kind of sell this and sell the mounts. It would have been hilarious. Yeah, there were some weird facts. Like, they wiped more on One-Arm Bandit Heroic. Now, it's not a great fact by any means, but they wiped more on One-Arm Bandit Heroic than they did on Gallywix.
Max, wait, someone claimed that Boomy said you guys secretly Vantised on Muggsy. Is that true? No, we Vantised no one on Muggsy. We talked about Vantising Muggsy when we were on Gallywix after we woke up and saw that Echo hasn't killed it yet, purely just for the chance that that information, like, circulated around Twitch chats, and then maybe they read it, and then maybe they tricked themselves into thinking we did, and then they did it, which would have, like, hurt them on Gallywix potentially. But interesting, that would have been pretty ironic, because them Vantising Muggsy would have actually been way better for them. So we would have been trying to trick them into something that would have helped them. But yeah, that was the idea. Not a single player was Vantised for Muggsy.
Which is also really funny. Things like that.
We didn't even Vantis people we sat on Gallywix just in case we wanted to play them. That's like literally 0 Vantis runes.
Do you think Echo had any chance? Personally, no.
Why is that, Preach?
That is no shade at Liquid. I do not think... I ran the numbers in my head. For Echo to have had a good chance at winning this race, you would have to have, one, had foresight as to what was coming. They would have had to have killed Gallywix in like 50 pulls, realistically. They would either have to have killed it the night before or killed it within an hour of starting their next day, to have seen Gallywix worked on the strat before Liquid woke up, because Liquid correctly went dark.
Yeah.
And killed it that night, probably.
I mean, you could have just killed Muggsy faster, though, right? Couldn't you have just killed Muggsy? Like they were literally ahead at an early point in the raid.
Late into the night,
right,
in order to have won. That is unrealistic. Not to say Echo didn't make mistakes. They did. I think a blunder was One-Arm Bandit. They got the full advantage week 1. From what I understand, again, Scripe and stuff might change this a little bit. It's the information I've been getting from the players, is they did science pulls on One-Arm Bandit instead of pushing for the kill. That may have given them a bit more Muggsy information, whatever.
Wait, what? Okay, this is like secondhand information, but what does that mean? Do they mean like week 1? Like they did science pulls week 1 and they should have been trying to kill it week 1? They said they tried some different bomb orders. Like after we had the VOD of how to kill it? Or like on Monday or whatever. No, on week 1 when they went dark. That's not wasting pulls. Bro, we did... How many fucking science pulls do you think we had on Gallywix? We didn't know how the entire fucking fight worked. But that's just what you have to do when you're at a boss without any other guild's information when you're on it. That's not like a... That's just progression. That's just progression when you don't have a strat when you get to a boss. You have to do stuff like that. It's not something you did specifically bad, right?
Don't know if Echo's going to release how many wipes were caused by bugs on Muggsy.
We had the exact same bugs.
They didn't play well. No one's arguing that at all, but a lot. A lot. I've had varying reports of how many wipes were, or potential kills is probably a better way of saying it. Potential...
Bro, we would have killed that boss hours earlier without bugs, too. We were, like, live. I know you guys are probably sleeping at the time, but we're, like, on the boss, literally screaming about bugs killing us with comms unmuted for hours before the boss died. Almost 4 perfect pulls in a row. Every single person alive after jails, within, like, 6 or 7 pulls, we had 4 with everyone alive after the jails in the last phase, and we wiped to the bug on the mines. Like, it happened to everyone, man.
Kills were down to bugs. Let's put it this way. After they figured out how to fix the main bug, they killed it in 2 pulls. I'll just put that...
You'll just put that out there. Okay, we also figured out how to fix the main bug. It was a desync on those ads, and it was... I guess we just figured that out faster. Like, I don't know how many times they wiped to specifically the bugs in the last phase, but we wiped to it like 4 or 5 times screaming, looked at a bunch of odds, figured out they were desynced, and had people run into the back of the mine instead of the front, assuming it was behind it, and that made it a lot more consistent, and then we killed the boss. Maybe that's the same conclusion they came to, but like coming to that conclusion faster is something, you know, progressing bugs is not ideal, right? Not to mention, before they even started their raid that day, we have our comms unmuted, and you can see our players intentionally running behind the mines. If you look at our VOD and you say, hey guys, when you're trying to pop those mines there, do you just run into the back of them before they started their raid? They would have also alleviated this. This is information that's just publicly there.
Out there. They figured a way by accident of how you fixed the bug, and then they killed it 2 pulls later. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. They
also had 9 people go in the jails in the last phase. They had 9 DPS go into the last jails, and we had 5 by utilizing Mage Ignite. They had the ability to run 3 mages and do the same thing. They would have not wiped on the boss low had they played a strat that gives them more boss damage as well.
Not get the god pull they were after. I think they played better 9%. I'm trying not to be a biased person here. I obviously have a bias. I saw more of Echo than Liquid by a long way. They play when I'm asleep. It's the nature of the beast. Echo were phenomenal week 1, like absolutely unstoppable. I
really wonder how much of that comes down to them killing Sprocket in week 1. Like the whole Echo's unstoppable, Echo outplayed. I just wonder if we go back in time and our power doesn't go out and we kill Sprocketmonger in week 1. Is the take still that Echo completely dominated? Because Echo would have played exactly the same in this scenario, but the only thing that changes is we also kill a boss week 1. I feel like a lot of it is Echo dominated because they killed a boss we didn't, and I feel like there's just a very obvious reason for that. Like in our first reset with maintenance and the power outage, we had 8 hours less time of raiding than EU guilds have in their reset because there's no maintenance at the start of their day. They start at 6, 7 a.m. whenever they come up, and you know what I'm saying? Like that's all I'm saying. I mean, I'm down for saying Echo played well in week 1. I don't pay too much attention to what they're doing, but I feel like the whole they dominated in week 1. I don't even like what boss are you looking at where they dominated us, right? They killed Styx. I think they killed Styx faster than us, but I don't know because we progressed more of that boss coming up with our own shit. Like look at a boss like Gallywix. They killed the boss in half the amount of pulls as us. I think they kill that boss fully on their own with no information from us. I think they take 100 pulls too, definitely. So Styx isn't quite a boss like that, but like I'm just wondering what exactly you're pointing to saying they fucking owned us in week 1, right? I'm not sure.
If they carried on that performance into week 2, maybe, but even then I'm like, how would this have worked? Like in order for them to have won the race, they really would have had to have killed One-Armed Bandit in the last 3 hours they had after killing Sprocken. Then they would have had to pull Muggsy probably a few times.
They would not have to. Killing One-Armed Bandit in week 1 has that is like completely out of the realm of them being able to do that. That's not like an option, right? I also don't even think there's any difference. Then you would just kill it in your reclear as well.
Then they would have to have killed Muggsy the next day far quicker than anybody even came close to. Then they would have had to have killed Gallywix within the same day. That's the only way they could have won, realistically. It's the only way they could have won. But that's my feelings on it. The Echo players might have a different mindset on that situation. Is Blizzard dumb as rocks for talking up how they wanted to really watch the race? I don't know. Yeah, heroic splits are grim. In fact, I mean, I'm proud, and I think all our caster team is.
So true. Heroic splits fucking suck. And they absolutely obliterate viewership. That sucks. But I think you can make an even bigger argument that Blizzard could just do a heroic week. Like, dude, the first week of patches now are so, like, there's nothing happening. Bro, you can just do a heroic week then. Fucking slam it.
Regardless of what people say about splits and stuff, the Echo broadcast was the #1 watch thing on Twitch. Over everything else. We had that award in week 1 of splits. Like, I am ultimately proud that we put on the best show on Twitch.tv during splits and the race.
In addition to this, Echo had higher viewership during the second part of the Muggsy than Liquid did during the secret phases of Gallywix.
Yes, we had higher. Yeah, it's interesting. We had higher viewership during Muggsy fails than Liquid pulling Gallywix.
Dude. Oh my god.
Fuck is it? So we're looking at all these POVs. We did figure out that like if there's any form of Z elevation, it disappears the Armageddon. So there's some stairs nearby that disappears the Armageddon. The obvious ones that were locked in jails, that was pretty obvious. You could see those. You just physically can't get them. But being unable to detonate the bombs was a real problem.
That everyone
In
dealt
another
with,
jail.
yeah.
No, you can see them. That was our thought too. You can see them if they're on top of on a jail. Doesn't mean you can get to them because the walls are up. But yeah, you can go up there. Yeah, I really wonder if Liquid figured out how to the problem was desync. And we think, our guess, or at least my guess, I'm going to put this on me. My guess is that when they enrage, because the bombs had two, like, non-enraged and enraged, right? They had an energy bar that filled up, and then they would enrage. When they enrage, for whatever reason, they completely reposition themselves.
That's not what happens. I don't think. All right, so because I think he's going to say this here, like I think maybe Liquid figured out how to do it. So we figured out how to do it. We talked about what the bug was on stream in front of tens of thousands of people. We clarified to the player that was soaking them what we wanted them to do, which was run into the back of the mobs instead of the front or like strafing around them. Like basically look at their path, right? If you're on Muggsy, you're in the last phase and the boss is down here, we're all down here, and these two mines are coming from this direction. They were just CC'd and now they're CC immune and they're walking towards the boss. Okay, if you were someone trying to soak this mine and it's here, the correct way to soak it is by doing this. What a lot of people did was the raid was here. They would run over, try to soak it. They would run into the mine, and then they'd strafe around it a million times trying to get it to pop, and it wouldn't work. This was the bug. How I think the bug works is when they become CC immune, they start moving faster than they're 200% faster, and I think their model is actually back where they would have been if they weren't CC immune. So like, for example, you're trying to soak it here, but its model is actually probably here. So you're on top of it, but it's over here. Well, the only change we made was when you're popping mines, and they were coming from this direction, pop them like that. So the hunter would try to pop it by running in like this. That made it work every time. It would often pop like a little back behind it. They were clearly desynced with their thing. We did this on stream. We wiped to it doing it the wrong way. We talked about fixing it. We told them how to fix it. And then for the pulls after this, we did this and talked about it. So, and all of that information was available with a boss kill video in hand before they woke up at all. So them taking their own time to figure it out how to do it, we had to do that as well, and that information was available to them, right? I don't know what he's on about.
The actual hitbox gets repositioned, and the visual stays where it should be, but the hitbox itself disappears to somewhere else, and that means that what you're visually seeing is not what's happening. We had a number of clips of the players being stood empty, like there's nothing around them. And then,
but complaining about bugs is lit though. Like complaining about bugs is fine. Like they are fucking annoying, right?
They detonated a bomb.
Nothing wrong with that.
And there's nothing there. It's not even close. I'm not talking like it's like a few yards away. Nothing even near them. And it just would blow up. And they're like, what the fuck is going on? We're like, we don't know. Like, it's not there. But they did figure out how to resync them, which enabled them to, like I said, they killed it 2 pulls after they figured out how to resync them. We gotta go world first because Liquid had power outage. The power outage was scheduled as far as I understand. I don't want to
completely incorrect.
Dig into this because I don't want anybody to ever think I'm throwing shade at Liquid. They won fair and square, right? But we got told the power outage was scheduled.
Completely false. So the only thing that we talked about this earlier, but on my, and part of this is probably my fault, and I'll explain why. And Zach, can you actually link me what our one was on there just so I can actually just prove this? But here we go. So this is my profile. When our power went out, I tweeted hashtag power out, and then after that I said the entire city of Santa Monica's power was out. So part of this is my fault because I think if I never tweeted this, I don't think the disinformation would have been spread, because what someone did was they went onto some power website and they screenshotted this picture. And this is what Preach is referring to, and this is what people on Reddit was saying this, because this was a planned maintenance outage in Santa Monica, right? Here's actually what the reason for the outage was, okay? Opening an image in a new tab. Reason for outage, upgrading equipment, customers impacted 3. This was a completely different outage. It was scheduled. It was with 3 total homes in Santa Monica and had absolutely nothing to do with our power outage. The reason why I think I maintain some responsibility for this being wrong is because I said the entire Santa Monica's power is out. That's not true, but everything on our block was out, including some massively huge tech companies that also lost power at this time as well to the same thing. So we just assumed it was everywhere in the city because someone said those words to me. That's why I tweeted this. They were just wrong, and then I repeated the wrong information. Okay, so that's why I think this was wrong, because then people saw this, and then it just spread that it was a planned outage as some kind of copium. Like, people were like, Liquid's getting fucked because of a power outage, and then of course people who don't like us are like, well, how can I swing this to where it's still Liquid's fault? Oh, it was planned. Of course it was planned. You guys should have known. It was not fucking planned. A transformer blew up. There was an actual post on this same website that was about our outage that went up after it was like looked at. That post exists. It's just not this one. Maybe someone here can post it. It was in our Discord at one point. I don't know where it is, but we never felt like we needed to defend it not being planned because it wasn't. But just for your all's information, it wasn't. It was not a planned outage. We would know about that. That's not what happened. It doesn't really matter if it was planned or not. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. Planned or not planned, you still lose power. I guess planned means like you could have found a way around it. And if it was planned, I'm sure we would have found a way around it. But it wasn't, I guess. But either way. Okay, dear residents, we want to inform you that a transformer nearby has burst, causing a power outage that is affecting our entire building as well as some neighboring areas. We understand this is an inconvenience and appreciate your patience as crews work to restore service. For updates on this, you can check in with the SCE, which is also, by the way, the SCE is where this post is from, I believe, just from a completely different outage in a different part of the city. But yeah, we had a transformer blow up, so we lost power. It was not planned. I don't really know how much that changes things, but just to fully put that out there, that is not what happened.
To happen.
Wait, Tag said sent me it on Discord. Okay, here we go. Here's the actual report. So the actual outage from the same website is here. Repair outage, Santa Monica, start time 12:52, which is when our shit went out, and then the estimated restoration, but that was not the same one. Not like the one that people were linking. That's what Tag sent me. And it also didn't come back at 2:30. It came up a few hours. I think it was like 1 hour after that, maybe an hour and a half or so. All right, here we go.
So,
let's rewatch this.
Because Liquid had power outage. The power outage was scheduled as far as I understand. I
Not
don't want to dig into this because I don't want anybody to ever think I'm throwing shade at Liquid. They won fair and square, right?
Actually, I feel like you don't think we won fair and square, right? Because like, why do you keep pointing out that like Echo had no chance of winning unless they did all of these things that they had absolutely no chance of doing? I feel like you've like heavily implied that this whole video, actually.
But we got told the power outage was scheduled to happen.
False.
See, and then we got that. I think we heard that on Liquid broadcast as well. So
our broadcast absolutely never said that.
I don't know.
Also, even if it was, like, I don't even understand. Like, what is
it wasn't, lol. I would double check that. Because that's what we got told. It's like it was scheduled. If it's not, and it sucks. But yeah, power outages happen. It happens like during every race, something like that. We've had internet
Yeah, for sure.
die. It is what it is. It sucks.
Yeah, 3 hour times we're not playing the game. That has never happened to us one time ever, at any rate.
It certainly didn't matter. Max said it was scheduled in a different place. The 7 p.m. patch time. I'm surprised Scripe didn't clock this, because we all knew. I am really surprised that Scripe didn't clock this. Because, I mean, we were after the first two, it was very apparent that internally at Blizzard, they had decided a very specific time to nerf bosses. So they still won't give us a heads up, which I think is a mistake. I think Blizzard should give a heads up saying we're going to, if not...
They give both guilds are aware of it at the same time. All right, I need to put this shit to bed. All right, so hold up. Regardless of who's raiding and when they nerf a part of a boss, I believe the people who are affected most by the nerf are people who have been on the fight longer and have been dealing with whatever Blizzard had deemed overtuned by them nerfing it longer. Like, for example, if they nerf the last phase of any boss to do 30% less damage to you, and one guild has been in the last phase for 20 pulls, and the other guild has been in the last phase for 3 pulls, at the time of that nerf, which guild do you think is more affected negatively by them choosing to nerf the overtuned last phase by 30%? It's clearly the team that has been there and been dealing with has more wasted time by them in that phase for longer. Right? That is how nerfs work. So when they nerfed Muggsy the first time, when they nerfed Styx, we were on the boss for longer than them. Regardless of it happening at the beginning of our day versus the middle of their day, how is it like we're gaining from... Like, if they would have nerfed it at the beginning of Echo's day, for example, before they were on the boss, or before they saw the part of the boss they nerfed, wouldn't that have been unfair to us? If we, the previous night, progressed an overtuned thing, and by the time they got to it, they never had to deal with that? That would be, you know what I mean? Like, like regardless of when it happens in your day, they nerfed Muggsy the first time when we were within 10 pulls of each other, and they nerfed it the second time when we were within very close pulls of each other. But both times we had been on the boss for longer, and we had been on the parts of the fight where those nerfs were relevant for longer. So I don't understand about like I feel like the way I'll listen more, but I feel like the way he's about to phrase this is like echo multiple times. Oh, we knew it was going to happen. They're going to put those nerfs in the morning for NA, bro. That is like a uninformed EU cope viewer take. Like that is, it's like kind of embarrassing anyone with knowledge of the race. Like there are times where nerfs can be bad timed for people, but I'm pretty sure the worst way you could possibly do it is by nerfing it for a guild that hasn't been on that part of the fight as much yet. And I know that when they do them, they try to avoid that happening, which is why they usually wait. He was talking about it. Everyone seemed to know when it was going to happen except Scripe. Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll keep listening. Because I've heard a lot of EU cope about this that is like, I think totally wrong, but maybe I just assumed he was going down that road. Let's see if that's true.
Specific time to nerf bosses. So they still won't give us a heads up, which I think is a mistake. I think
they don't give any guild a heads up. It's the same for both people.
Blizzard should give a heads up saying we're going to, if none of you kill it, we're going to nerf the boss at this point. So they can organize some sort of strategy around nerfs, especially if they're potentially on the last boss or close to the last boss. They don't do that. But it became very obvious to me and the rest of the casting team, it's like at 7 p.m. they nerfed the boss. So at dinner that day, so about, I don't know, 12 p.m. or whatever, we were talking about, well, the nerf will be at 7 o'clock. And they're like, yeah. So Alex set an alarm on his phone for 7 p.m. for the nerf to come in. We took a break at 6:59 p.m., a casting break, because the guys were on a break as well, toilet break. And as I leave the room, like I open the room for the broadcast, Zerwo, I think it was Zerwo, posted in TeamSpeak that they just nerfed the boss. So the production room is right next to where we cast. So Sam leans out and he goes, they just nerfed it. And I was like, check my watch. And then it was like 7 p.m. exactly that they'd nerfed Muggsy. And we were like, I fucking knew it. I totally knew it. And Scripe was coming out of the toilet as I was walking down the corridor. And I went, they just nerfed it. He went, what? Have they? I'm like, yeah. He's like, where did you see this? And Zerwo was just posted about it. It's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, it's literally just been nerfed. He's like, how did you know it was going to be at 7 p.m.? I'm like, they've all been at 7 p.m. Exactly 7 p.m. is when they keep sending these nerfs. Like, that's when it happens. That's the second they start their day in Anaheim. And that's when they send the nerfs. Do you think Gecko should just go NA at this point?
Dude.
No, I think Blizzard should fix it.
What would going NA do?
There's big
what's the take here?
To echo all.
Like, there's absolutely a world where being NA will win you a race. There's a scenario where that could absolutely happen. It's probably the race just dying fucking instantly after Tuesday, like beginning of a race, like Emerald Nightmare tier shit. There's also the boss has way too much HP and you need a reset to kill it, and we just get the reset earlier. Absolutely true. Like, it could totally happen. The thing is it just never has. Like, there's just not a single time that we've won where you could credibly claim that we won because of NA times. It's impossible. You can't do it. It could have happened. Like, if they didn't kill the boss on Monday and Sanctum and we, like, just logged in early, got the reset of gear, extended Vantis, and killed Sylvanas, it could have fucking happened. It got close. And a situation like that can happen. But talking about going NA after these raids where it wouldn't have changed a single thing for you is like, why would you not do it all the time? Because you know this could happen, right? Not saying it's on them to do it, but like clearly Blizzard's not going to do it, right? Blizzard should do it. They're not going to. They've like made that really clear. And it sucks that that is something that could happen, but also mentioning that just implies that it would have been any different, and all of them know it would not.
Liquid going to NA or EU respectively is the support with helpers. I think Echo used 2,000 plus helpers. 2,000 players were needed. And if you go to a side that clearly has a bias of NA or EU, that's going to literally be a massive handicap. It's on Blizzard to fix. It's not the players'
It is
job
on
to
Blizzard
fix
to fix.
this.
That's true.
It's the Blizzard's job to sort this out. And they could do some simple things like heads up on nerfs or things like that, but no one could have predicted the end of the race would be like this. Yeah, it's a Blizz problem to fix. It's not a player's problem to fix. Yeah.
So I wonder... So he keeps mentioning that, like, Blizzard's really incompetent. He hates the way this raid ended. And I'm kind of guessing the reason he is saying that is because, like, he wants, just like a lot of you, he wants to see us and Echo pulling a boss low at the same time. So, like, Fyrak, right? Or on a lot of other bosses, it's been like that, too. Denathrius is kind of like that, but also Painsmith was kind of like that. Halandris was kind of like that. So, like, it's that moment. Like, it's like the moment in the race where both are live, both are pulling a boss really low, and you're like, who's going to kill it first, you know? But he seems to imply that this raid was so much worse than last raid. But, like, last raid, it wasn't close either. But the last boss was hard, but that moment still didn't happen. And he doesn't seem as upset about that. And really the only difference was, like, the boss was easier. And I don't know, maybe, like, in his head he's implying, like, the boss was too easy. So, I don't know, like we've been playing, I don't know when the last time we got outplayed by them on a hard boss was. Like, on a really hard last boss. Not last tier. Basically, it's like Fyrak in the last, like, 3 or 4 tiers is the boss that they, like, a hard boss that they were just way better than us at. And, you know, there's something else about that boss as well. Like, Jailer, like, it probably Sepulchre is the last tier where, like, they got to a boss and just... Actually, I think they played better than us on Razageth, too, so you'd give them Razageth. Like, Razageth did not turn out and end well, but I also think they played better on that boss than us up to that point. But, like, Jailer, for sure. Jailer and Raz. But, like, since Aberrus, so the last 4 tiers, like, I don't know if, like, the whole, like, oh, Echo's like a machine right now, they're killing this boss. Like, that hasn't happened, except for Fyrak, and, you know, you can have your own opinion about Fyrak, but I don't know if, I guess what he's trying to imply is, like, oh, if the last boss was hard, Echo would have had a better chance. I think we would have won by more. The hardest or second hardest boss ever was last raid, and we fucking astro-gapped everybody, right? Hardest boss this tier is Muggsy. I think we played way better on Muggsy than everyone else, too. What makes you think the last boss is any different? Like, the whole, like, it's going to be it's super fast. They never had a chance. I don't know. It's just, it stinks. It stinks to me for sure. That whole bit.
That'll be great. It's good. I ask questions because I want to play again. Those splits were so smooth. Yeah, that will be the strategy going forward. Yeah, for sure. The Echo split strategy was crisp. As far as I know, I didn't watch, so any of the Liquid viewers can let me know. Is like, as soon as Echo were doing that, Liquid also swapped to doing that. It's definitely the way it's going to go forward. It'll be the natural way of doing it.
I think he's talking about the split strategy that Method did last year, which is doing like a bunch of normals at the same time, combining the keeping the good helpers from it and doing heroic. I don't know. We talked about doing that, but, like, Echo didn't come up with that. I also don't think they did splits, like, a lot faster than us. Like, at least in the first week, it took the same amount of time to do splits. We did our like second week splits faster, but, like, faster versus doing more runs is kind of weird. Like, if someone does more runs than you and takes longer and you did it faster, it doesn't mean you're doing the same thing and faster. And this stuff is so spreadsheety that I'm not sure quite how many did. They had more eye level than us, but I don't know how much of that was doing more runs, which is maybe why we were faster than them, because they did more runs. I think we did the same amount of galleys and Muggsies, though. I know Method did more runs than both of our guilds. Our eye level difference was there. Our eye level difference on Muggsy was really big because we were using a bunch of old embellishments and they were using none. I think we had 12 636 embellishments equipped in the raid, which was like massive eye level loss. And they had none before we crafted. I think on the last boss they had like 0.7 more. They definitely got more eye level than us by from killing Sprocket week 1, but I don't know how much outside of RNG they like did more runs or more efficient. I don't know if that's true. Like on the second week we did our re-clear of Mythic at the end of the day, and their first day they didn't even step into Mythic at all, right? I mean, maybe they pushed some of that stuff there and we pushed it till later. I don't think so, but I just don't, I'm not sure about that.
We're all dismayed with the last boss, but the broadcast was amazing. Yeah, our show was fantastic. Really happy with it. Can't complain. I mean, we were the top watch thing on Twitch. That it says it all. We were number 1. It's great. If Blizz don't fix it, would it be possible for NA EU Asia race? Asia isn't close yet, despite like appearing on the leaderboard. They need time to develop a strategy on their own. They're very, very good at copying and implementing strategies, but they have a...
That's not really true. They have strategies for everything, and they wipe hundreds of times more with the full strategy. They need to develop in every area.
Zero experience in actually developing a strategy. Heroic Week needs to stay. He wouldn't get rid of splits. The guys will still do splits at reset, but he could reduce it. One of the interesting things
significantly reduce it, yeah.
Found. Medic is amazing. Yeah, Medic's great. The whole casting team is fantastic. There's no combo of casters at Echo that's weak, I don't think, from what I can see. Did you see Max's reaction to when they killed the boss? Yeah, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. An embarrassing last boss. Literally embarrassing. Like, there's no other word I have for it. There is no... I have never in my life seen a final boss of the hardest difficulty get fucking tickled by over 10% of its HP with half the raid dead. When I saw Echo do that, embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing. It is completely embarrassing. I have no idea what the fuck is going on there. I doubt we'll get the answer, but it is an embarrassment of a final boss. Absolutely embarrassing. There is no boss. Xavius didn't work that way. Xavius, if you had half your raid alive at the end of Xavius, you still didn't win. Do you think about how it's...
Xavius was so much easier than Gallywix.
Go to watch the raid next time you talk to Blizz.
I think a lot of people see that like Emerald Nightmare was a like 1 day race total, so they assume that like Xavius took 1 day. It took as long to kill Gallywix the first time than it took to do all of Emerald Nightmare. About 15 hours of raiding, just Gallywix alone. Way easier than it should have been, but the boss is way closer to Sarkareth than it is to Xavius. 15 pulls different than Sarkareth, and significantly more than Xavius.
My bigger concern isn't that, actually. My bigger concern...
But you could argue that this was a bigger miss than Xavius, though. I think that's not a bad argument. But trying to put them on the same thing is that's not the right thing to do. Like, for example, Xavius and Emerald Nightmare is supposed to be easy. Gallywix is not supposed to be easy. So, like, Gallywix being that easy with the intention is that it's very hard seems a lot worse than Xavius supposed to being easy and then just being very easy.
Is how teams like Echo, that is self-supported, will think about the race going forward. I don't know. It's too early to decompress.
Max, is it possible that after week 1, Preach just assumed that Echo was going to win, and that's why he reacted that way to this tier and not last tier? I think it's possible. I mean, he said Echo looked like a completely different team and like by far the best team in week 1. And I'm pretty sure the reason he thinks that is because for the first time ever, really, like an early boss was killed by Echo and not us in the first reset. So he's like, this is this thing that happened, and oh my god, are they outplaying everyone? And I think he's just kind of ignoring the we have less time in our reset thing, and we also lost our power for 3 hours, which he thinks was scheduled, and we should have been able to avoid it. Because, like, I'm pretty sure, like, I'm not positive. He said Echo dominated week 1. I just wonder if we killed Sprocket in our first reset and they still killed Sprocket when they did and absolutely nothing changed, if that word would still be dominated. Because I don't think it would be. And the only reason that didn't happen was because of something out of our control. So I think you might be right. Maybe the reason he's responding to this so much is he just thought Echo played way better in the first week than they did.
What Echo will take away from this. But the race is... I think it's got 2 detrimental effects, which really makes me personally sad because I love the race so much. I don't care who wins. I want to put...
And they had a 6-hour time save on early Vantis. Yeah, we took like forever to Vantis Styx, and then we finally did it and killed it, and they woke up and did it. And they didn't... That's like, I don't know. That makes sense for why they killed Styx a decent bit faster, but like I still don't think we did the wrong thing. Like late in the reset, you still don't want to Vantis unless you absolutely have to, and we knew we could kill it without it. And at a certain point after dinner, it's like, I mean, we might as well Vantis, right? Like, what's the point not to?
And a good show.
Like, because like once it's really hard to be the first guild to Vantis, because after you do, every other guild knows what to do. But until you make that decision, like you could be totally fucked if you do it at the wrong time, and you didn't need it.
I love it. I've loved it for 10 years now. I've done the race. My concern is the race is now becoming unpredictable. Not just in terms of length, but also
Wait, did he say I don't care who wins? That's crazy.
That you can't plan for, you can't strategize for in any way, and it might not be worth putting on a race in the way we do going forward. That genuinely chokes me up a little bit to think of it like that, but I also, from a business standpoint, that's got to be a consideration. Is like, we put in so much effort and so much time to this. How can anybody...
Like, how is this different than like Aberrus, though? You know, like the race is always unpredictable. It could be like 3 weeks where those casters make hella money, like Sepulcher, or it could be like Aberrus. Like Aberrus for sure is true. Like you put in all that effort, you put on these huge events, and then you have 3 days of splits and 3 days of progression. Like that super sucks, bro. This is a 12-day raid. You know what I mean? Like, this wasn't like, I mean, isn't he like sucking himself off constantly about how crazy good he thinks the Echo channel did and how long of a race he would do that? We're the #1 thing on Twitch. Well, what about that is unpredictable? Shouldn't you be happy with that? Like, what argument are you making?
We predict that for whatever reason the final boss will die in 100 pulls.
Yeah, but like clearly that wasn't the intention though. Also, this has happened before. Sarkareth died in 100 pulls.
In a race where we had over 100 pulls on mid-tier bosses. You can't. Like, you can't plan ahead. I mean, what's the plan here? Everybody just plays until their eyes bleed because you don't know if the next boss is going to fall over or not.
I don't know. I just wonder if Echo wins and then has 100 pulls on Gallywix, figuring the boss out just like we did. I just think his tone is totally different. I bet he's still upset that the last boss was easy, but just completely fucking different.
That doesn't work. You can't do that. Like, we can all sit here in hindsight and say, oh, well, Echo should have, like, killed Mugsy and then gone straight and played all night into Gallywix. But that's a nonsense thing to take away from this. It's utterly nonsense. Like, we went to bed after Mugsy died, and I think Liquid were at 30%. And looking back now, you would go, well, shit, you need to get in there and start pulling, right? But there's no fucking way in hell that...
Yeah, because you killed Mugsy too slow.
30% should be done by the
What do you mean?
On the final boss of the raid. Like, it's
Bro, y'all took forever on that boss.
Nonsense. Nobody on the Echo team went to bed that night expecting to wake up to that scenario. And we were all in shock. We were like, what the fuck happened? As were Liquid, right? You can clearly see when that thing dies. It was interesting to watch the reactions, as a lot of the production team and stuff were cheering and screaming. The players were just in befuddlement, it looked like to me. Like, the players who understood what had just happened. And I think Zai's such a good guy. I think Zai was handling it very well. Because I was thinking, how would I have handled this from a caster point? I would have just been furious. My words would have been very different. But Zyronic handled it very, very well. And, like, I don't even really know what we're supposed to say. This is very strange. This is unusual. Yeah, like, nonsense. Absolutely embarrassing. Completely embarrassing. Yeah. Could have watched the broadcast for friends. You killed it. Echo should have killed it in 41 pulls, but Teeth died and there wasn't enough people in the soak. I blamed Mires for it, but they should have killed it in 41 pulls. But we'll take, what was it, 49? Yeah. Whoever goes harder wins. Nonsense. You can't do that for a race that lasts multiple weeks. Like, this isn't a 100-meter race. Like, it's just not the case. That's not how this race works. If the race was to last 3 days, sure, whoever goes harder wins. But that's not what happened here. Yeah, we'll see about Heroic Reek. Exile legit said that was the boss. Of course. When that achievement popped, I don't know how much I can talk about, right? But because I want to be careful here, because Blizzard... There's a lot of things in the files that don't get used. That's normal, right?
Every single clearly data mined mythic mechanic for this fight was seen on the boss. Not a single mechanic that was like tinfoil that could be there, like wasn't there.
Every patch, regardless of raid tiers or whatever, there's tons of things in the files that don't get used.
Yeah.
There's a lot of...
Just from clarification, what usually those are old mechanics on the fight that they no longer use. So if you're ever looking at like a data mine dungeon journal, right? You see all the mechanics that are supposed to be there, and then there's what Siori does for us, is these like tinfoil like spells that could exist maybe, and he has them down at the bottom. Those exist on every boss. They're usually old mechanics that they threw out and stopped working on anymore. But for every secret phase, they don't like put them in the dungeon journal, but they keep updating them, and there's mythic flags on them, and it's so obvious that they are going to be used on mythic. That was true this time. There's nothing. I don't know what he's about to say, but let's see.
Things for Gallywix that never appeared. There's voice lines get used. There's a lot of things for Gallywix that never appeared.
Nothing, absolutely nothing on Gallywix that was like in that people that have been doing this for a long time, like us, we can only speak for us, we've been trained to like see what these mythic phase mechanics are going to look like and where they are and like how they're updated and stuff like that versus ones that don't show up. Every single one was seen. There wasn't even like a tinfoil one that we were still waiting on seeing.
There's voice lines. There's stuff that just does not appear in that fight.
It's not true.
That exists. And we're like,
this is 100% not true.
It's side-eyeing, like, what the fuck is going on here? Yeah, it was weird. Worst final boss I've ever played. Oh, I felt so bad for the mages. I bet Fired Up feels the same way. Being told that your role on the final boss of Mythic is to shoot a training dummy for 5 minutes and not take part in any part of the fight whatsoever is a fucking disaster. A disaster. I couldn't believe it. When I went out, Hopeful was like, bro, that is the worst thing I've ever done in my life. Like, I actively just don't take part in any aspect of this fight for 5 minutes. I just stand still and do my rotation for 5 minutes on the final boss of the raid. What in the actual titty fucking Christ is this boss? Like, unbelievable. What do the mages have to do? Nothing. The mages don't do anything. In the first phase, which is way harder, the mages use a bomb that debuffs you. If you die at any point in the fight, you wipe the raid. That's the clever mechanic. And so the final phase is like, the final phase 2 is like 5 minutes. So their job is to just stand at the very back of the room and not take part in any of the mechanics that go forward. They just stand still. Occasionally, one of them might get marked with a circle, so you have to move a few yards to the left or the right. But other than that, your final boss is to hit a training dummy. It's awful. It's awful. It's so bad. Because you're trying to play... How can you be a world-class player if your job is to shoot a training dummy? Do you think we'll get an apology from Blizzard? No, Blizzard won't talk about it.
Last time there was a boss that was problematic, they talked about it, so they probably will. Maybe they won't, though. I hope they do. But
I get why they do
but
it.
there's precedent for them having to talk about this because they just have before.
But I hope guilds reduce the amount of times they go dark.
I mean, going dark thing is bad. Like, it makes sense that we do it, but it's definitely bad for the race. Like, the fact that viewers know that whenever, like, some guild is about to go to a boss for the first time, that it's just not going to be shown, like, that absolutely sucks for viewership. No fucking question. It sucks. Echo going to one-armed would have been cool. Us seeing Muggsy would have been cool. You guys seeing the, like, Gallywix mythic mechanics that night would have been cool. It is definitely bad. It's not lost on me that it's bad, but it also makes sense that we do it.
That's not going to happen either. The timing makes sense for going dark. I don't like it either. You guys know that.
I mean, it's just bad, yeah.
My personal choice would never
bad
be
for viewers,
dark,
bad for broadcast.
That's not realistic
objectively.
either. It makes sense. You're not going to get back to your prog point for 2 days. Like when Echo went dark on One Arm Bandit because they were so far ahead.
Dude.
Why would you share that? And they only had 3 hours left, and then it was
It's
reset. So they're not going to get back to that boss
holy
till either
fucking
very
bias.
late the following day or the following morning, or
Crazy.
the morning after. It's like 2 days. So yeah, just giving you competition information is silly. And Liquid mates, it might have been a very different story if you think about it. If Liquid didn't go dark on Gallywix, which they should have, and Echo's like, what the fuck is happening over there? They may have pushed to all-nighter or something like that.
What you would have seen from us going dark is getting to the secret phase and then instantly dying. You would have never had any idea how hard the rest of the boss is from that. You also wouldn't have even mattered if we didn't go dark because you didn't kill Muggsy by the time that we woke up, or even within hours of us waking up and continuing that progression even further. It would have changed nothing.
It can change things. Honest question. Was it a problem the boss was easy, or it killed what you guys wanted in a race? Oh, yeah, of course it's a problem. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's a massive problem. It's really sad that there's no good answer as to how this happened. I have heard narratives and stories and thoughts from all over the world, from the most hardcore Liquid fans, Echo fans, from the players themselves. The only people I ever spoke to are the Liquid players themselves. But yeah, it's a big problem because you think of it a bit more like an American Ninja Warrior race. Let's think of it like that. You guys know what I'm talking about. Them stupid fucking... where there's all sorts of ridiculous obstacles on some race course.
Wait,
There's
let him
no
cook.
way
Let him
you
cook.
design something like that where you have this monumental challenge near the start that instantly annihilates.
Yeah, bro. Okay, what argument are you making? Like, of course, Blizzard did not intend Styx to be that hard and intend Gallywix to be that easy.
99%.
This
of the
isn't a hot
competition,
take.
which is what happened here, right? You have something that's like 30 seconds in that eradicates 99% of the trained competition. I'm not talking about your average Joes. Practice, trained competition. And then after that, it's a downhill soapbox race. That's not how those things are designed. Like, you would never do that. From a common sense standpoint, that makes no sense. That's so stupid. Like, somebody would look at that at the design phase and be like, what the fuck? But they got the tuning wrong. No, they didn't. That is a lie. And I keep seeing this fucking narrative everywhere. No, they didn't. They hotfixed Sprocketmonger on week 1 perfectly. They had all the data. They had all the information. They knew exactly how to tune those bosses by boss fucking 5. They had it
Bro,
all.
what are you talking about?
They had everything they needed to make perfect little gentle adjustments.
No, they didn't. By boss 5, bro, we hadn't even spent... We didn't send a single upgrade crest until week 2. A lot of people didn't craft until week 2. And they knew these bosses were going to be with an extra reset of gear. What do you mean? Bro, we don't even know how strong we're going to be until we're in that second reset. And I think we have a better idea of that than Blizzard. There is no way Galley was intentionally that easy. Zero chance. Absolutely none. That was a massive blunder. I bet they've already had multiple meetings about it. There's that. I mean, that's crazy.
Just like they did with Muggsy. If Muggsy wasn't nerfed, bugged a lot for both guilds, all guilds, Muggsy would have been nice, tight, reach the enrage. Perfect. Right? Perfectly tuned. You would have gotten very close to the enrage with pretty much everybody alive. Mwah, gorgeous. We didn't even see the enrage on the first time we got down to when it should have happened with the Echo team. They killed it in
You did see the enrage on your kill and the other one, the other low pull, but I actually think if there's anything on that boss that wasn't super far, like it didn't need to have its health nerfed again, but the main thing that's undertuned about Gallywix is every mechanic just not being punishing enough. Just none of them are trying to kill you at all. That is what makes that fighter. Like you could have the damage check not be super something you need to optimize on Gallywix, and it still could have been impossible to get to the end. Just none of the mechanics were hard enough. And that's not something it's like about tuning. I think that the take that they made it easy on purpose is I don't know about that.
50. Liquid did it in 100, and that was like, oh, what is the pattern? Okay, what happens next? Okay. You tell me any boss in the history of WoW on the mythic final boss where you get to 12% like Liquid did, and they go, guys, we don't know what happens from here on out, and it just dies. It should never happen. Never.
That's true. But also, Blizzard did not intentionally do that,
It's
though, right?
completely absurd.
I guess you'll never know,
completely
but I
absurd.
think it's
Again,
extremely
no shade at
unlikely.
Liquid. They played the hands they were dealt. It was fine. It was just embarrassing. You're more mad than the player team. Actually, I am. That's true. Echo didn't care. I could tell you after Nerebar, Echo was very sad and pissed off. Echo was fine with what happened. They're not mad about it. They just chilled and they killed it. Yeah, there was no salty feelings amongst the Echo team whatsoever about not winning this race. I was more...
What? I mean, I guess he can't speak for them, but like, bro, anytime I lose a race, I want to like not be alive, man. Like it's the saddest thing of all time.
More angry than they were.
I mean, maybe they're just fucking built. Maybe EU's built mentally different, bro. But I feel like losing races is so much worse than like winning is good. It's like the worst feeling of all time.
I was like, no.
Unless he's like they already mentally went to bed on Muggsy taking so long, knowing that they lost. Because like we knew we won when we woke up and Muggsy wasn't dead. So maybe they knew they lost when they woke up. We went, we turned on competition mode again, and then people saw like how far we were on the boss. I guess, and maybe that's why I don't know.
I won't chill the fuck out. You had me making videos for the WoW channel to get more people into the race. We just put on the biggest like show we could possibly do.
I'm not even saying like them being mad is a bad thing, by the way. Like we've lost a bunch, guys. I know what losing feels like, and it's fucking terrible. We've lost by getting straight up outplayed. We've lost when we've beat ourselves. We've lost when I felt like we got fucked. I know what every single one of those feelings feels like, and they're all bad. Some are a little worse than others, but they're all the story at the end of the day is you lose, and that's the biggest reason why you feel like shit, right?
You have this mystery dungeon journal, which was bullshit. Like, I mean, we did technically get a secret, but it was crap.
Bro, if he's live casting Echo being the first people on this boss and they take 100 pulls and they're live reacting to all this stuff and not just watching a video about it and going in and doing it, his opinion on everything about this boss is different.
We've been plugging and marketing this race for a long time. No, I'm not. I'm going to be.
Except for the fact that
it's
too easy.
Never
but
played out
that's
this
true.
way. There is no justifiable reason. Meanwhile, Styx is incredibly difficult to do. That's what I'm saying. Like, everybody's saying, oh, this is cool. The last boss won't be so hard to kill. You ain't seen the last fucking boss, idiot. What good is that? What good is having a last boss that's very killable if you never fucking see it? Fucking clown. Shut the fuck up. That makes no sense to anybody. You're going to have to wait for some mega nerfs to the middle of the race so you can... If we do order of difficulty of this race...
Let's see if he gets this right. It is... Muggsy Styx? I don't know if Sprocket or Styx is harder. I think Sprocket's harder. They nerfed Styx though. Yeah, we had a bunch of pulls on Styx before they nerfed it. And Sprocket, as far as I know, was never nerfed, except for like the health, but no one was at that HP yet, so that nerfed in like effect progression. I think Sprocket's harder. So it's Muggsy, Sprocket, Styx, One-Armed Bandit, Galley. But I think One Arm Bandit would have been harder than Sprocket and Styx if you did it in week 1 gear, but we just did it in a different week.
Vexy easiest.
Yes.
Cauldron second easiest.
Yes.
Third easiest, Gallywix.
Oh, there's no... Wait, I'll give him a chance to fix it, because there's absolutely no fucking way this dude thinks Richard Reverberations is fucking harder than Gallywix. There's no way. Bro.
Then Rick.
Dude, he actually remembered Rick!
Then Styx. Then probably Mugsy if he's fixed. But it'll be a close tie between Mugsy and Sprocket Monster.
Dude, what a fucking... Jesus Christ.
What's happening here?
Jesus
What is happening
Christ.
here? Gallywix is either third or fourth. You can argue over Gallywix or Rix, sure.
No,
but
you
it's
can't.
pretty-
You actually can't do
The
that.
one-armed bandit exists.
That's just...
somewhere
It's
in there.
simply an insane thing to say. Wow. That's... Bro, that's insane. Absolutely insane.